Bruh, be so for real right now. You know it takes more plants to raise and slaughter animals than it does just to eat plants, right? What's happening to those animals? I mean, if eating plants reduces the amount of plants being eaten by animals, where are the animals going? They're being killed. I mean, where else are they going to go? I mean, they're going to continue to eat plants even if you're not going to eat them. If you're not going to eat those animals, they're going to still be eating plants. Unless, of course, you make the animals no longer exist. At which point, you're defeating the purpose that you claim to be vegan for, which is to not kill animals. I mean, it sounds like a good thought, but if you put any real thinking into it, you realize that the only possible way that this statement is true, wholeheartedly, is if you're going to slaughter the animals. Or you're just going to release them into the wild. But even then, they're still going to be eating plants. And, I mean, what happens when if the world ever did adopt an all-vegan diet? What do you think happens to those animals? They get eaten. Or they get killed and just wasted. Just thrown onto the ground. No one eats them. They die for nothing. Or they get released into the wild. A place they can't possibly survive because they're farm animals that have been bred to be in that environment. They're like dogs compared to wolves. Only the dog has a better chance of survival out in the wild than a cow does. It doesn't make any sense. You know, vegans to me are not very rational. A lot of times. Some vegans are. Some vegans are scientists. Some vegans are smart. I find the mass majority of vegans, though, are not. The mass majority of vegans are purely emotional thinkers. I believe that they are unstable due to their diet. My main issue with vegans is their lack of scientific understanding. Their lack of ideas that can withstand criticism. In my experience, the mass majority of vegans that I have interacted with or have seen interacting with people are not very rational people. They're highly emotional. They have tendencies to violence due to their diet. It has nothing to do with them. It's their diet that's doing this. You know, let's talk about vegans. There are many health authorities that explicitly advise against vegan diets, especially for children. Their claims about infants and athletes are based on complete speculation. They cite no study following vegan infants from birth to childhood. They don't even mention potential problematic nutrients like vitamin K or carnitine. In the EU, all nutrient supplements, including B12, are by law required to state that they should not be used as a substitute for a balanced and varied diet. In Belgium, parents can be imprisoned for imposing a vegan diet on children. The supposed science around veganism is highly exaggerated. Nutrient science is in its infancy, and the best studies on vegans rely on indisputable and fatally flawed food questionnaires that ask them what they eat once and then just assume they do it for several years. Vegans aren't even vegan. They frequently cheat on their diet and lie about it. Self-imposed dieting is linked to binge eating disorder, which makes people forget and misreport about eating the food they crave. The vast majority of studies favoring vegan diets were conducted on people who reported to consume animal products and by scientists trained at Seventh-day Adventist universities. They have contrasting results when compared to other studies. The publication of researchers like Joan Sabat and Winston Craig, reviewers and authors of the A&D position paper, show that they have strong biases toward confirming their religious beliefs. They brag about their global influence on diet, yet generally don't disclose this conflict of interest. They have pursued people for promoting low carbohydrate diets. 80 to 100% of observational studies are proven wrong in controlled trials. A vegan diet is not a substitute for the average person. Ex-vegans vastly outnumber current vegans, of which the majority have only been vegan for a short time. Common reasons for quitting are concerns about health, 23%, cravings, 37%, social problems, 63%, not seeing veganism as a part of their identity, 58%. 29% had health problems such as nutrient deficiencies, depression, or thyroid issues, of which 82% improved after reintroducing meat. There are likely more people that quit veganism with health problems than that are vegan. This is a major limitation of coherent studies on vegans, as they only analyze the people who did not quit. Survivorship bias. Vegans use appeal to authority or observational non-causal studies with tiny risk factors to vilify animal products. Respectable epidemiologists outside of nutrition typically reject these because they don't even reach the minimum threshold to justify a hypothesis and might compromise public health. The study findings are usually accompanied by countless paradoxes, such as meat being associated with positive health outcomes. Vegans like to say that meat causes cancer by citing the WHO's IARC, but the report actually says there's no evaluation on poultry, fish, and that red meat has not been established as a cause of cancer. More importantly, Gordon Goyat, founder of evidence-based medicine, criticized them for misleading the public and drawing conclusions from cherry-picked epidemiology. They choose only 56 studies out of the supposed 800 plus. A third of the committee voting against meat were vegetarians. Before the report was released, 23 cancer experts from 8 countries looked at the same data and concluded that the evidence is inconsistent and unclear. The idea that dietary raised cholesterol causes heart disease? Never been proven. Much of the anti-meat push is coming from biased institutions like Envid's University or Harvard School of Public Health, who typically don't disclose their conflicts of interest. The latter conducted bribe studies for the sugar industry and was chaired by a highly influential supporter of vegetarianism for 26 years. He published hundreds of epidemiological anti-meat papers, tried to censor publications that opposed his views, and wanted to de-emphasize the importance of experimental science. He has financial ties to seed oil, nut, fruit, vegetable, and pharmaceutical industries, and is part of many plant-based movements, like Blue Zones, True Health, Intuitive. Popular sources that promote plant-based diets are actually just vegan propaganda in disguise. Blue Zones are fake. The largest living population, paradoxically, consumes the highest amount of meat. Buchner cherry-picks and ignores areas that have both high consumption of animal products and high life expectancy. He praises Adventists for their health, but doesn't do the same for Mormons. Among others, he misrepresents the Okinawa diet by using data from post-World War II famine. The number of centurions in the Blue Zones is likely based on the birth certificate fraud. The franchise also belongs to the SDA Church now. The website, nutritionfacts.org, is run by a vegan doctor who is known to misinterpret and cherry-pick his data. He and many other plant-based advocates like Kepler, Clan, Davis all happen to be ethical vegans. Restrictive dieting has psychological consequences including aggression, negative emotional, loss of libido, concentration difficulties, higher anxiety, measures, and reduced self-esteem. There are an extremely strong link between meat abstinence and mental disorders. While it's unknown what causes what, the vegan diet is low or devoid of several important brain nutrients. A vegan diet alone fulfills the diagnostic criteria for an eating disorder. Historically, humans have always needed animal products and are highly adapted to meat consumption. There has never been a recorded civilization of humans that has able to survive without animal products. Isotopic evidence shows that the first modern humans ate lots of meat and were the only natural predators of adult mammoths. Most of their historical technology and cave paintings revolve around hunting animals. The ability to throw and sweat likely developed for this reason. Our stomach's acidity is in the same range as obligate carnivores, and its shape has changed so much from other hominids that we can't even digest cellulose anymore. The vegan diet is born out of the ideology species inappropriate and could negatively affect future generations. Many environmental studies that vegans use are heavily flawed because they were made by people who have no clue about agriculture. Plant-to-animal food comparisons are deceiving because animals provide many actually useful byproducts that are needed for medicine, crop fertilization, clothes, pet food, and public water safety. Vegans are in general very dishonest when comparing foods. They compare 1 kilogram of beef to 1 kilogram of tomatoes. The claim that we could feed more people just with more calories is also wrong because the leading cause of malnutrition are deficits of iron, zinc, folate, iodine, and vitamin A, which are common and most bioavailable in animal products. Vegan land use comparisons are actually half-truths that equate pastures with plantations. 57% of land used for feed is not even suitable for crops, while the rest is often much less productive. Grassland can sequester more carbon and has a 4 times lower rate of soil loss per unit area than cropland. Regenerative agriculture restores topsoil, is scalable, efficient, and has high animal welfare. Big names like Kellogg are investing in it for long-term profit. On the other hand, removing livestock would create a food supply and capacity of supporting the U.S. population. Nutritional requirements due to the lack of vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium, and fatty acids while removing most animal byproducts. Water usage is possibly the most ridiculous way vegans deceived. The water footprint is divided into green source from precipitation and blue source from the surface. Water scarcity is largely dependent on blue water use, which is why experts use life cycle models. Vegan infographics always portray beef as a massive water hog by counting the rain that falls on the pastures. 96% of beef water usage is green, and it can even be produced without any blue water at all. The crops leading to the most depletion are wheat, 22%, rice, 17%, sugar, 7%, cotton, 7%. Voluntary veganism is a privilege that is enabled by globalization. It concentrated in first world societies. Less than 1% of Indians are vegan. Jains, who are similar to vegans, are the wealthiest Indian community, and even they still drink milk. In fact, India is a great example for why veganism doesn't work, because they religiously pursued it for thousands of years and still couldn't do it. Even Gandhi was an ex-vegan that had to warn them how dangerous the diet is. Veganism is a harmful ideology that promotes the abstinence of any optional animal suffering inflicted to support human health. For example, vaccines are not vegan, and just like meat, some people have already considered them unnecessary. Likewise, popular vegan communities also encourage people to put their carnivorous pets on a vegan diet to avoid cruelty. Hence, promoting animal rights is fundamentally anti-human because it will restrict or remove access to even the most basic need, such as food or clothes. The only reason vegans are able to deny this is because they are pretending that people who had to suffer for their ideology don't exist. Vegans are not raising enough awareness about deficiencies and as a result, harm innocent children. B12 deficiency can cause irreversible nerve damage, psychosis, and is hard to notice. 10% to 50% of vegans say they don't even take any supplements. Vegan diets are more dependent on slavery because they rely on global food supply. Many crops, especially cotton, nuts, oils, and seeds that they have to include in higher quantities to make up for animal production are to a large extent child labor products from developing countries. 180 million children work in agriculture. Cheese replacements, guess who's responsible for that, are usually made with cashews, which burn the fingers of the women who have to remove the shells. Vegans have never been able to define or measure that their diet causes less death and suffering than omnivorous ones. They are ignorantly contributing to the absolute bloodbath of trillions of zooplankton, mites, worms, crickets, grasshoppers, snails, frogs, turtles, rats, squirrels, possums, raccoons, moles, rabbits, boars, and deer. 75% of insect biomass, half of all bird species, and 200,000 humans per year. 2 grass-fed cows are enough to feed someone for a year, and if managed properly can restore biodiversity. The textbook vegan excuse, where they try to blame plant agriculture on animals and use only mice deaths, fabricated feed conversion rates of 20 to 1, and a coincidentally favorable per-calorie metric is nonsense because the majority of animal feed is either low maintenance, foregone, or byproducts that only exist because of human food harvest. It literally shows that grass-fed beef kills fewer animals. Vegans love to misportray farm practices and anthropomorphize animals by giving them concepts that they don't care about or even enjoy. Sexual corrosion, rape, isn't normal procreation, and cows don't see a problem with it. They will even milk themselves when given the possibility. Vegans somehow manage to justify systematically poisoning and torturing insects by arbitrarily declaring that they can't suffer sentience. They might as well consider eating them. The same goes for bivalves, since there's about as much evidence that they feel pain as there is for plants. Here's a list of vitamins that the vegan diet is lacking in. Vitamin B12, vitamin B6, choline, lysine, vitamin B12, vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin K2, omega-3, iron, zinc, calcium, selenium, iodine, protein, keratin, CoQ10, conjugulated linoleic acid, cholesterol, glycine. Common vegan debate fallacies. Nirvana fallacy. There is no point in eating animal products because everything can be solved with a perfect vegan diet, supplements, and genetic disposition. Proof by example. Some people say they are vegan, therefore animal products are unnecessary. Appeal to authority, pointing to an opinion paper written by vegan shills as proof that their diet is adequate. No true Scotsman. Everyone who felt veganism didn't do enough research properly. Properly planned vegan diets are healthier. Narcissistic prayer. Everything bad that came out of veganism is the fault of the world, not veganism itself. No true Scotsman. Veganism is not a diet, it's an ethical philosophy. No true vegan eats almonds, avocados, or bananas. Deficit fallacy. As far as it is possible and practicable, can be used to define any case of hypocrisy. Special pleading. It is never ethical to harm animals for food, except when accidentally hiring planes to rain poison from the sky. You can trigger their cognitive dissonance by pointing that one out. Special pleading. Anyone who doesn't agree with my ideology has a cognitive dissonance. Appeal to emotion. Usage of words exclusive to humans. Rape, murder, slavery in context of animals. Fallacy. Evolution is a fallacy because it's natural. Texas sharpshooting fallacy. A third of grains are fed to livestock, therefore a third of all crops are grown as animal feed. False dilemma. Producing only livestock is less suitable than producing only crops, so we should only produce crops. False cause. Asserting that association infers causation because it's the best data they have. Let's get rid of firefighters because they correlate with forest fires. JQing off. This is how vegans convert other people. They always want them to justify eating meat by asking tons of loaded questions, presumably because nobody would care about their logical inconsistencies, arguments otherwise. Cults often employ this tactic to recruit new members. They mistakenly call it the Socratic method. Argument from ignorance. Name the trait. AKA, vegans are right unless you prove their nonsensical premise wrong. It's essentially asking, when is a human not a human? Moving the goalpost. Whenever a vegan is cornered, they will dodge and change the subject to one of their own pillar. Ethics, health, environment, sustainability. Ad hominem, nitpicking statements out of context, attacking them in an arrogant manner, and then proclaiming everything someone says is wrong while not being able to refute the actual point. There are so much more. You can go on and on and on and on and on. The point is, veganism is not a good diet. It's a half-baked ideology. It's dangerous, and I think a lot of the issues with vegans are due to their diet. They are mentally unstable. They have deficiencies on vitamins required for proper brain activity. I believe this is the reason that they're so bad, majority are so bad at science.